Steve, it's a magical time, and it is, and explain why it is and what we need to do to continue to make it a magical time.
Quick background on how I got obsessed with this stuff. You guys are 90s kids. You grew up in a time when they had VHS cassettes, 101, really ugly looking covers and just, but it was like the best cartoons. It had Looney Tunes, Popeye, Betty Boop. The one I remember specifically is Betty Boop and Grampy, Cowboy Hotel, the Superman ones, obviously Popeye, Alibaba, and all that. So then I already grew up with that, and then as I was older, I realized everybody else also watched this stuff excessively when they were a kid. And very grateful for my parents for passing that down. And I've always had that, that love for the cartoons and my head and stuff. I got the license for Betty Boop, I think in 2017 for my mom. I love my mom, she loves Betty all the time. And then once I started licensing, yeah, Betty Boop, pretty much really love her. But then I started realizing, wait a minute, there's a neat interest for Coco, but what's this about? Apparently, there's a rapper named Ghostman who does a cool track, and a fan of his just made this little music video, the sequence of Snow White with Coco dancing as Pet Keller and all that stuff. The video, I think right now has like 400 million plus views just for this little 4-second clip. And I saw that and I was like, one, who the hell is this clown? Why are all these kids getting tattoos of him? And I'm like, what's the background? And then, because I had the license, I was like, wait, Coco's part of that whole world. Let me ask what's going on. Nobody was really making merch of him. I asked them, hey, can I explain this a little bit? Can I make merch of the Snow White stuff? As you can see, this is the biggest seller because of the whole
There's only some of them.
But essentially, when I saw those Coco cartoons, I was just like, where are they? And what happened is with Max, when he started off doing the Coco cartoons before Paramount, that was all kind of independent stuff. So all those films were just scattered throughout the world. So
There's no masters.
yeah.
All that's left is old prints.
So what Jane and I are doing is we're reaching out to different archives. We're asking them, hey, can we scan this? Can we borrow this? Anything Fleischer related. But what I want to show you guys real quick is that video of Ghostman. And in the video, I'm also showing off an AR filter that we just put out. I was talking to James and Skylar about how many hits it has. I think it has like 500 million hits on my AR filter that I just did randomly. I'm gonna go play that video real quick just so you can see what this new generation, how they just like caught Coco and are just running with it. And when I saw that, I was like, we gotta exploit this. We gotta give people Coco. Let's get the cartoons, and then that kind of led to all the other cartoons. But I'm gonna run real quick. I'll play you that video so you can.
Ray, real quick, while Mauricio is setting that up for us, I get the people who grew up with that being nostalgic for seeing it, but what is the explanation for a group of people, an age of people who didn't see it the first time or the second time around, falling in love with it? What's going on there?
Shall we translate?
Where's the intrinsic value in somebody who grew up in the 90s or the 2000s to seeing this? They have no prior knowledge of it, but they want to wear a sweatshirt or a hat or a figure with Coco on it. What's going on?
Well, I think the animation renaissance that started in the 90s created a curiosity and awareness about what came before. So I think that contributes to it, and then a lot of people start rediscovering these things. But I think it seemed to go in spurts. Fortunately, that's what helped it. In my particular perspective, I was in the second generation that saw these after the theatrical run, so I saw the first television exposures starting in 1955. I was 70 years old, so I call it. And so that's what really got me brought into this. And so, to make a long story short, as I say in my book, I live this stuff.
Yeah. Mauricio, we're good? All right, so watch this, ladies and gentlemen. Dane, I think we can all agree that's exactly what your grandfather had in mind.
Absolutely, especially the lyrics.
That's your grandfather singing, is it not? I'm pretty sure.
I knew that, this is a scoop, y'all.
Yeah, let's start with you on this one. The importance of preserving this, the cultural importance of keeping this alive, is what exactly?
That is such a loaded question. It's,
Well, I'm loaded, so that's why I asked.
it's important. Steve has said to me before, it's important to get all those pieces of history because we need to fill in the blanks. Because, as we've said, a lot of this material is not handled don't have masters on there. For instance, the picture making, which is the master, which would be what's coming. And as Steve has said, at some point, someone in the future is going to want to see these things and not go by somebody else's opinion or what is the common knowledge or accepted narrative and see these for themselves. And that's why we're doing this. We're getting them, frankly, probably better quality than they look when they came out. Because we're doing things that a lot of photochemical and traditional couldn't see as.
Technology is finally caught up.
Yeah,
We're in a sort of magic moment. I remember hearing this NPR story that was a writer had talked about how she lived in the country and they heard an ice cream truck in the distance. Her mom grabbed all this change and put it together and said, "We have to go because this will never happen." And apparently it was the only time the ice cream truck had ever come up there. And we're sort of at that moment here right now. We've had this whole thread of these things. It started to become scary.
yeah,
And Ray was doing sets in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then Tommy Stafford's set came and started the story.
mhm,
And then Mauricio came, and then Fletcher's came. All of the, and Brad and I, we restored a good part of the book series from Canada days. And Devin Baxter actually. So it's a scruffy group of people. It isn't Warner Brothers restoration services where they've hired all the big companies. But a big company wouldn't be able to do this. They wouldn't be able to go through and say, okay, now we're going to find everywhere. Private collectors, we're going to honor the archives. We're going to find archives that weren't willing to let things before.
right.
Twist their arms.
It's a labor of love, though. You really have
And
to.
it absolutely has to be.
Yeah.
Doors are open.
But then the next generation can come in and say, this is cool, we've
Yeah.
given this X amount of use, or repurposing it. Copyright is an antiquated way of thinking about things.
Yeah,
Because copyright laws were designed to try to keep things available to